Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. So keep in mind before I even begin this video that people provoked me in a way that would cause the average person who believed in God to be very angry and to start yelling about how God is greater than the government. Keep that in mind. Okay, so this video is to Donald Trump and his administration and to whoever else it may concern. It is about why I have the high ground, and it is not smart to let one's ego make things worse for the whole world and their offspring. Now keep in mind that the entire world and their offspring, okay, except for me, they're depending on the people who are overseeing this, the people who make the calls in regards to this case. They're depending on them to make the right decision and to mitigate. We've crossed a certain line where after my flesh dies, there's no moral way to proceed. No matter how important you think other people are, no matter how important you think you are, or your family, or whoever. With universal logic, I'm the most righteous person that ever lived and that ever will live. We see in Psalm 45, where it says the king is the most excellent of men. He rides forth in the cause of truth, justice, and humility. It doesn't say he's rich or he's a worldly leader. Okay, they're talking about somebody who has established the throne in righteousness, Proverbs 16:12, right? It's a religious book, the Bible, right? They're talking about a truly holy king in reality and not propaganda. With that same scale, I'm the person who logically, okay, is the idea that Christ in the end of the story refers to. Now bear with me now. You might be skeptical at first if you haven't heard my arguments before, but when you hear this next part, I'm sure you'll agree. With universal logic, okay, the most logical assumption is that I am Christ. And that's more significant than you might think. For example, the miracles in this story are figurative. Is it more logical to believe that somebody walked on water for people around 2,000 years ago, okay, to prove to those people at that time that he's the Son of God and that, you know, if you have faith, you can do this, that, and the other thing, or what have you, okay? And that nothing like that has happened in recent history when there's more people on the planet now than there was then. Okay, is that more logical to believe than it is figurative with a message that when explained correctly, people now can get something from it other than they have to have faith because of a miracle they never witnessed. The miracle is figurative, water stands for righteousness, the Spirit of God, and so on and so forth. So that's more logical to believe. And so it is with, is it more logical to believe that some white guy with long hair, okay, after white people, no offense to anybody, colonized the world and treated people unfairly and so on and so forth, and everyone knows it, no matter what propaganda says, everyone knows it. And he's some kind of LGBT looking guy, skinny, sickly looking, and that he's the image of God, and that his flesh is part of it. Okay, and he's going to come back on a cloud and save hypocrites as far as the eye can see, which is basically what most churches are getting at. Even though in the Bible it says narrow is the way to life and broad is the way to destruction. So, when you look at this logically, okay, God expects you to make decisions based on the logical assumption. That's why in the Bible, one of my favorite parts, it says, why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? So is it right to just believe a random church when there's 20,000 denominations in America alone, 380,000 churches, they don't agree on very much, so to speak? Or is it more logical to believe what the logic is pointing to? So the whole world is relying on the people, you know, and their offspring and their ancestors to some degree. They're relying on the people who oversee this whole project to mitigate and to meet my requirements and to not let their egos get in the way. Which leads me to my first point. That actually wasn't my first point. That's like an intro. This is my first point. I am willing to die and sacrifice everyone on the planet on the drop of a hat when it makes perfect sense and in the name of what is not negotiable. In the name of God, right? Putting God first, not settling romantically because God is love, not being gay and not pretending to be gay because that's a sin, that's idolatry. No offense to anybody. The financial requirement, $125,000 a year or more, must be met at this point due to age and wear and tear. Okay, and the fact that that's not that much money, but it's enough to keep me from coming to, falling to a certain state that's mocking God, enough to empower me in a certain way. Okay, obviously I'm empowered by God. I mean, in terms of, you might say, financial empowerment within the boundaries of the divine order that allows me to have my own place, what have you, to make my pitch to a woman, to be taken more seriously in public because I'm 43 and a half and there's no time to proceed the way I've been proceeding. And I don't look as appealing as I used to look, and so on and so forth. And the last point is that gang stalking must end. Now, a lot of people have been saying complete nonsense to me that shows that they don't have proper mentorship, they don't have proper leadership, proper guidance. They've been saying things like, well, that's not in our best interest. Do you really think it's more important, okay, to cater to a small group of complete lunatics who do not understand the significance of what's going on here than it is to mitigate the damages for the whole world and their offspring? Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, why should I believe that? Well, let me tell you the explanation of the 4 advisors. There was once 4 advisors to a president. 3 made sense and believed in God, and 1 was agnostic and mildly retarded. The mildly retarded advisor, okay, was kind of clever at times, but he wasn't wise or perceptive or insightful or intelligent. He also did not have a lot of basic and fundamental common sense. One of the other advisors pointed out that nobody who is anywhere near sane, okay, is an atheist. Also, the smartest people, okay, were and are monotheistic. So if, say, Jesus was here now, one should not persecute him. So should the king or the president in that situation listen to the 3 smart advisors or the 1 mildly retarded agnostic advisor? Now, in case you don't understand the significance, as I'm the top martial artist ever possible, I'm the most universally smart person ever possible. Life intelligence, not mere business or science, but life intelligence. Let me give you an example here. 1 in 13 adults or so has a PhD. But the masses of the people are stupid. That includes countless people with PhDs. Their life decisions are dumb. Okay? So regardless of what field they're in, right? Medicine, science, whatever. That didn't allow them to be smart, to be the father of the top martial artist, what have you, or to be the top martial artist ever possible himself. Einstein believed in a God. The top martial artist ever possible believed in God and believes in God. That's me. So the people who in popular culture are the smartest people believed in God, and the person who's the smartest person ever possible in reality believes in God. So why would you, out of pettiness and an inflated ego, persecute the most righteous person that ever lived, okay, and not meet these bare minimum requirements to mitigate the potential consequences? And I'll put it in business terms in a moment here. We'll get to there. Bear with me. Point number 2. The people who have decided to persecute me and the planet itself, okay, according to their deeds, have made the worst mistake in human history. As one who slackens his work is brother to one who destroys. And it is insane for them to not mitigate the damages. They must at least compensate me and stop all psyops on me in order to mitigate the damages to some significant degree. Okay, again, it's the worst mistake in history you're making. So why do I have the high ground? Not that I'm bragging about the high ground, but you need to understand the situation here. And again, I'm not trying to, crack down on you or something. I'm just trying to explain it, and they make it hard for me to explain it calmly. and to make it harder for me to make a video. I have to wait a certain amount of time because of background noise. It's a long story why that is. So I'm just going to just explain it if that's okay with you. Okay. So, point number 3. I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me just keep going here. They are basically businessmen, and in business, there's 3 principles that are the most key. Profit versus loss, mitigation, and the bottom line. So how does it profit you to keep persecuting me? Keep in mind that I'm willing to die and sacrifice everyone on the planet. I'm the most willing martyr that ever lived, that ever will live. If you decide to keep persecuting me and I die, okay, I won't hesitate when it makes sense to die. Okay? If you fume to death, poison to death, whatever makes sense. I'm not suicidal, but if the circumstances came about, I won't hesitate to die. I have no problem with that. But where does that leave you? No matter what you think, I have no problem letting everyone in my family die, everyone on the planet die, and myself die, my flesh die. You know, for God Almighty, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But where does that leave you? It leaves you with having made the worst mistake in human history. On behalf of your ancestors, your family right now, the country, the world, and their offspring. And you might not believe that it's the worst mistake in history, but the smartest people that ever lived do. So you're going to have to face your family, and their offspring are going to have to face each other every day, knowing that they are the people or the people related to the people who made the worst mistake in history ever possible for no good reason whatsoever. Because you didn't want to pay, just a mere $125,000 a year as a society to the most righteous person that ever lived, because you couldn't resist doing petty, childish, frat hazing type of stuff, running useless experiments on the most righteous. How does that profit you? Profit versus loss. Mitigation. This is the bottom line. You do not stand to profit from harassing me to no avail, while you look bad while you do. Also, it is clear that society, whoever is doing it, must mitigate, and that is part of the bottom line here. Bottom line. Point number 4. The timeline shows 2 things, among others. 1, it shows us that I have the most respectable life ever. Okay, again, not bragging, no offense to anybody, but I'm just showing you the bottom line here. Okay, so 1, it shows us that I have the most respectable life ever. Partially because of the wisest decisions ever. It would be foolish for me to ruin that in reality for any reason, including trying to save face to mere human beings or trying to go after pleasure, etc. And point number 2, that those people who have decided to persecute me, no offense to them, they have the worst lives ever, as they are filled with the most regret, whether their brain processes it effectively or not. And they meet their maker as the ones who have offended him the most. Again, you might not believe that, but the smartest people in history ever believe that. And part of why I'm the top martial artist ever is because my philosophy, my beliefs are better than everyone else's. Think about it. That's allowed me to naturally come within the natural construct of what actually exists in reality as the one on top. Okay, so I had to be direct and blunt. Point number 5. One must understand that I will put God first no matter what. I can't stress this enough. This is the most given of all time. Therefore, all negotiations must be, done with this in mind. And they must be for the purpose of leaving me alone and compensating me with no strings attached in exchange for them being able to reduce their eternal punishment which comes from God. That is the nature of the conversation. Anything other than this is insanity. It's like pretending the sky doesn't appear blue a lot of the times. It's like pretending that grass doesn't appear green a lot of the times. Anything other than this is just talking crazy. Okay, and again, that is in regards to the most serious matter ever, the persecution of Christ. And keep in mind that I will not play stupid about God or martial arts or true love, etc. Point number 6. Even the agnostic knows that to not mitigate the damages, okay, when it costs a bit less than a penny each for 22.5 million millionaires and billionaires in America is insane. So when we look at it just in terms of the rich, who basically are disproportionately guilty for persecuting me because of how things work, their position, what they could have done to help, what they were doing instead of doing God's work, what have you, right? You can't serve God and money. There's 22.5 million millionaires and billionaires in America. For less than a penny each, every year, they could pay me the $125,000 a year. This is the most obvious decision in human history, so to speak, if for nothing else. Would not your ancestors and your offspring want you to do this? When one is agnostic in life, all they have is the most logical assumption. And the most logical assumption, along with the sound conclusion of someone who has faith, is to mitigate by meeting the bare minimum requirements. Again, I'm going to put God first no matter what. I'm not going to settle romantically. I'm not going to be gay or pretend to be gay. They should pay me $125,000 a year at least. Before taxes, mind you, not even after. And the gang stalking operations must end immediately. Okay. Point number 7. I must represent God, or I would apologize for the angry tone I used in the last video and whatever tone you might find offensive in this video. Okay, but I must represent God. I was also fumed and poisoned while making that video and this video. I do not wish to plead for mercy. Again, I do not wish to plead for mercy or to kiss up to anyone, nor can I do such a thing, as it would not be honoring God. I must be ready to die for God at all times, the one true God, all good, all knowing, and all powerful, and not Lucifer, or Lucifer when people call him God instead of Lucifer, but actually the one true God. I'm sure you can understand the difference, and that you know the difference. Okay. So I have other points, but I think this did a pretty good job so far. We'll start there, and I'll get to the other points in another video later. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you.